As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road, let's camera action, I'm ready to go.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jermaine Brookshire Jr. I am guest hosting today for Mr. Ficklin. And I think we have a special show for you today. I have a special guest. Her name is Nerissa George. She is a doctoral candidate in public health. She's also an adjunct professor and astute researcher, and she does a lot. So I'm looking forward to, sharing her with you all so you guys can hear about the great work she's doing in the field of public health. And she'll tell you a little bit about her journey to becoming a PhD. So Nerissa, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, well, thank you, first of all, for having me today. As you said, my name is Nerissa George. I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago, which is a nice little island in the Caribbean. And I came to America when I was 8, but I turned 9 the next day. And so I've been in this country for over about 19 years now. And it has been a wonderful journey. As I came to America, I lived in Brooklyn, New York, and I lived in Brooklyn until I decided to go off to college. And that was a wonderful experience in itself. It was not the greatest neighborhood, but it was a very great community. And it got me to still having a sense and a piece of home that I was missing from when I was in Trinidad.
Love it. I love it. So when you talk about being born in Trinidad and raised in New York City, what about, New York City led you to now, because now you're upstate, led you to be upstate? Or why not stay in New York City?
New York City was a lot busy for me. It was a great environment. It kind of helped me explore and figure out what was it I really was looking for and what I really wanted to get out of life. And as I started to get older and started making your own money, expensive, and trying to figure out what would be the best move for myself. As I applied to college, I got accepted to a good amount of colleges that I wanted to go to because I went to early college preparatory high school in Brooklyn, Brooklyn College Academy. And so I had about a year worth of college credits when I was applying to college. And the biggest decision for me was, I know that going to college was going to be a very expensive thing, even though I had great grades and I did a lot of community service. And so I was always active within the community itself of doing volunteering work between sports and doing cheerleading, soccer, anything impossible that I could get my hands into. I kind of pretty much got into it. And I kind of wanted to make sure that I was making the right decision, but it was just so hard because coming from being the first person to actually go to college from my family, I didn't really have anyone to really rely on or really figure out what would be the best bet. But luckily at my high school, I did have really great guidance counselors. And they told me about a bunch of different programs, such as the Education Opportunity Program that New York State offers for people who don't come from high income families, for them to be in and try to get the inner city kids to be able to see what the rest of New York State has overall. And that was a really good opportunity for me because I was able to apply to all these different schools and not really knowing what would be the best bet for me, but I kind of went with who gave me the best amount, for the best bang for my buck, I could say.
Absolutely.
Because it's so hard when it comes to, and I was one of those kids that I know that my family was not, we weren't struggling out on the streets, but we were just barely surviving,
Yeah.
And so I felt bad having to ask my parents for money for anything. So got to college, I was like, you know what? Even though this is a college experience and I want to live life, let me get a job so that way I could pay for the little things here because, you know, I saw how hard my mom worked to make sure to take care of me. And I always wanted to just be able to give a little bit of that back to her at any single time that I possibly can. And that's kind of how I was able to, when I got to upstate, I saw the opportunities that were lined up out here for me in the sense of being able to see how longer my money's going to go. I was able to do more. I'm able to get more space. I get to breathe fresh air. And so that's kind of how that went.
So how specifically did you find yourself focusing on public health? Where's that link? Because from what I know, and, you know, your mom, even before coming to America, she was in politics in Trinidad, and she worked very hard in that realm. So, you know, how did you get to going into public health?
Oh, to be honest, like any person first coming to America, like your parents want you to become a doctor.
Yeah.
And so when I first got to America, I was definitely in the pre-med track. I had it in my head, in my idea, I was going to go to med school. I was going to do an anesthesia program. And as I got into doing all of the hard sciences, which is very doable, and I commend everybody that does it, but I just found myself just feeling so drained while I was working towards it. And the time frame for medical school within like the training and actually all of that, it was like, and then as I started to pursue it very seriously, I started to see what the lifestyles of all those other of practicing physicians would be like. And I just knew that that was just not the life that I really wanted. And I kind of saw that while I was in my undergrad program. Luckily enough, at the University of Albany, they have a wonderful program where the undergrads could actually experience public health, just to kind of get like a basic understanding of what public health really is. And I would never forget because Dr. Williams, who was my introduction to public health professor, very strict, but wonderful, lovely guy. And he became like one of my mentors immediately because his class was just so over the surface. It kind of let you know just everything of what public health was about and just kind of getting to learn what it really more was about because I love helping people. And I think for me, more so, medicine is definitely like a one-on-one. You kind of help cure this person of their symptoms at this time, but there isn't that much prevention until now that they're changing the standards of how medicine is being practiced now. But at the time, it was so like one-on-one based that I was like, okay, like I still want to help people, but how could I do it at a larger capacity? And public health is more so about helping the community itself, going at a larger capacity for you to be able to use what you learn and apply it in all these different realms and all these different areas. And from that, I love the idea more of how was it that public health could actually help people. And I didn't really know much of this work because there was no one that I knew who had access to it. And a lot of times coming out from not the greatest areas, it's like, you know, you make it out and you go to college and, you know, you want to you're making money so that way you don't have to particularly go back immediately. And it was more so trying to find a way that I could be able to get something that I really love, but also making sure that I'm doing enough so that way I don't have to go back home and back into that environment too.
Yeah. You mentioned wanting to help and give back to communities, and it's one of the things that I'm most proud of you for with your career track. And segue into a recent law that was passed here in Connecticut, which would it created a commission that's really trying to decrease racial disparities in public health. And the state recently just declared, you know, that they're going to try to do a 70% reduction in racial disparities here. And I know one of the things that your studies you focus on is just how to eradicate those health disparities throughout the U.S., particularly with women of color. So can you just talk a little bit more about how you found that to be a big problem? Just, you know, some high level tidbits about, you know, what the lay of the land is there and how is it that your work is going to be able to help that?
So I found child maternal health very interesting because now, as being as I am, I identify as a Black woman, and being that I'm starting to get in that age realm where I am myself am going to want to look to try to have a baby myself, and know that as I started to do my research, I started to see like what things kind of look like. And a lot of times within the field, sometimes we may like, okay, you know, like we're in the field and we know that, well, we have more experience or we know a little bit more than what the typical person would. But as I kind of dug deep into like the actual Black maternal health research, it showed that it's happening to literally everyone. It doesn't matter if you have a degree, if you're from low income, it's happening to all Black women that, one, they're not receiving the best quality care they can. The delivery hospitals and them that are actually having these deliveries, they're overwhelmed. And so these women are not getting these best quality of care whenever they're complaining about pain levels or things that they don't feel that's normal with their body. Majority of the time they're being dismissed by their healthcare provider for it because of the simple fact that there are so many different preconceived notions that come from like whether if it's implicit bias of that person or just they're not being heard well enough. And I think that also too from just the pregnancy world, it's so much uncertainty with pregnancy because everyone's pregnancy is so different.
Yeah.
That it's kind of hard for you to really figure out like what's normal and what's not normal. And there are research now that kind of shows like different warning signs that you kind of look out for you to really know when things are not feeling okay. Pardon me. But it's just so much that's out there. And it kind of interests me because I'm just like, there's so many of these different issues that are happening right now. And people are now starting to talk about it. It's been happening for a really long time. And now people's voices are actually being heard. I say that after I had saw the first Black Maternal Health Week in 2018 was when I really started paying attention to it more and being more conscious about it. And as I started diving into it, and at that time I was in St. Louis, Missouri, doing my work on health communications. I started looking back, and as I was starting my doctoral program, my advisor, she does child maternal health work all the time. And this was I got to do one of my practicums or like one of my required work for me, or independent studies as we would say, for my degree. I got to work in her lab with her and kind of learn more about the issues that are at hand. And so Black maternal health itself is such a super huge, big aspect of the work. And so particularly for me, I focus more so on the education component of it. Because there's so many different ways at many different levels, whether it's at the patient level, it's at an organizational level, it's at a state level, a local level. There's so much work that can be done. And there is so much work already being done towards it and highlighting it and making sure that we're making strides forward to solving this issue and eradicating it. And I think that for me, more particularly, we didn't really see too many people or really being and getting the ground running and hitting until like there were people or celebrities who Black celebrities who have experienced exactly what a lot of these women had actually experienced before. They utilized their platform for there to be more open communications about it. And then as more people are starting to get the whole entire movement to be going, it's gotten so much more attention within the forefront, within the media, within the news, everywhere. And so now I think that we're starting to have these very much needed hard conversations about what's happening within the system itself and how are these women being treated. I say that when the CDC had released their numbers for racial disparities for pregnancy complications, as well as pregnancy deaths that have occurred, those are generally some of the numbers that we use very hard hitting to show that for us being such a developed country, our child maternal health rates are so high compared to so many other countries that are less developed than us. And there are so many issues within our healthcare system overall, but it's just, they were constantly growing at very alarming rates. And now we want to try to lower those to be able to work together and get to another aspect. And so, sorry.
I think in all of what you're saying, I wonder if you could share, let's say, there's a young couple planning, to have a child soon, and with having, the research background, what are some just practical tips that, they should keep in mind as they go for their doctor's appointments and such, that you think from looking at, the disparities that's going on, the implicit bias, that people of color should be aware of?
I think particularly, especially for, I think taking some time to actually, because pregnancy is a lot, there's a lot of different uncertainties, and making sure that you ask questions, even if it's like you feel as if that person's the expert. There, you have to make sure that you engage in your care and you take an active role in your care as well. Sorry. Overall, there is a lot that can be done, but I definitely think that exploring things such as like doulas, midwives, a lot of times within the research itself, it has shown that those types of providers take more time with you. They actually advocate for you, because doulas can actually be in the birthing process with you as well. And they do act as an advocate. Some hospitals are actually partnering with communities to be able to implement doula services there. Some states are actually starting to include, to expand their Medicaid coverage for doulas to be a part of that care plan, so they can be reimbursed for that. But I definitely think that if you want like a more personalized form of care where they're actually going to listen to you in that particular aspect, doulas and midwives are really great for that. But also too, that the physicians, especially like the OBGYNs and the specialty doctors, they're there to help you, especially if you're a high-risk pregnancy or you're having complications. And if you have any type of chronic disease going into a pregnancy, you want to make sure that you ask those extra questions, like how is it, like, for example, if I have diabetes, how is my diabetes going to affect me during my pregnancy during this stage? If you're experiencing something that is not normal for your body, you're going to experience a lot of things that is going to be very different for your body. Make sure that you definitely ask those questions. Like if you're overwhelming your doctor with questions and you're doing it right, because you're making sure that you're securing yourself and you're making sure you're asking these questions that you need to. There are a lot of online platforms that people use as different ways for them to be able to learn more information. And I get that each and every visit is going to be a lot of information being thrown at you. But you could use your provider as like a beginning way and as a starter for you to be able to ask those questions. And when you go home, you could find out more about it. And the internet can be a very great place for you to be able to learn about information, but just knowing where the information and what the source of information to is also important, because all of like your big websites, like your CDC, a lot of like the known parenting websites to kind of help guide you through where you're kind of going. Just also be mindful as to where the information can be coming from, because it can be both a positive and a negative space as to where is it that, depending on what your intentions for it for. I wouldn't say like completely use the internet as your entire source, but use it in combine, because the more sources that you're using, the more confident the more time you have for you to be able to be confident in the choices that you're making. You want to make sure you have as much information as possible. You ask as many questions as possible. You be engaging in your care, because pregnancy can be a dangerous thing and you know where it's going to be, but it's also a very beautiful thing for you to bring another life into this world. And you make sure that you're doing everything that you possibly can to ensure that you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And it sounds like a large piece of practical advice for individuals, which I guess is a little unfortunate for the extra burden that minorities need to carry, is that we really do need to be very active and involved in our healthcare and the choices that physicians are trying to make for us. And just outside of, childbirth, it sounds like just with all aspects, that we need to be asking pointed questions, maybe even ask why when giving certain prescriptions. So I just want to know, like, even continuing on that, Mark, like, what is it that, individuals who are not, learned individuals like yourself, what can we do day to day to help improve, just our overall, access and knowledge with public health and help people in our families with it? Like, what are some more, practical tips for us?
Another practical tip too is at least like people within the families definitely talk about what your pregnancy was like, It's okay to share all these minute details, because sometimes those are those details of knowing your family history that definitely helps. Being able to have an open, comfortable space, because sometimes it just be that someone just needs some support, and sharing your experience with them and being there for them in that aspect helps calm them down for them to know. And I think that it also creates a new form level of community within itself, because at least like all of the women that I have spoken to within my research, they're more than willing to share what their experience was like. But at the same time too, I do want people to know that that experience may not be your experience as well. So, you have to be able to take everything within the limits of what you think that is best. We always would like to take advice from everyone, but it's up to you to be able to find what level of it you want to take, and what level of it is like you feel like you doesn't really apply to you. And then even hearing those experiences, talking with your doctors as well could be like, okay, well, that part is main. Their doctor could help you weed out what is applicable to you and what's not applicable to you. And I know that it's very overwhelming for us, particularly as to what is it that we can possibly do. But I think that it's just with working time, there's going to be new information out. Like even finding out from like the Black Mambas, they have a lot of great resources. A lot of the Black maternal child health, I would say, organizations that are working in the forefront that a lot of people continue, or even if you go on the internet and you search just Black maternal health resources, you would be able to find so many things that would give you real practical advice as to like what you could do right now. Great. And I think that combined with the work that our researchers, our politicians, and our actual advocates are also doing too as well, it's going to take time for us to change the system. But as of things that we could tangibly do for ourselves right now is being able to do that, or even just volunteering for time, because different states, they even do like listening sessions to really know what individuals' birthing experiences was. I know that New York State had recently done some listening sessions to really find out what these issues are, and from actual Black women. So that way they could be able to know for a fact, okay, well, this is what happened. And so here are the big major things that we could target right now for us to be able to work towards it. Because sometimes we got to find the bigger goal in mind and just start taking it down list by list. And that way we could be able to work through all of those. And it is a multifaceted issue, but the thing that we could possibly do is try to make sure that we're just all informed for our own sake. Yeah.
Well, switching back to bragging on you a little bit. So you just, you're a day removed from turning 28. According to the latest statistics from the National Science Foundation, less than 7% of Black women in this country have been awarded PhDs in all fields of studies. And you're, again, less than a year away from earning your PhD. And I just, from where you've gone, from where you've been to where you're going, it's just truly a remarkable story and quest. So I just want to know from you, like, what does this mean for you?
I think that for me particularly, it means that, because I will be the first person in my family to be a doctor, so a lot riding on it. And I think that it is such a wonderful time and space for it to be able to be happening. I feel as if like there are not enough of us who are there in those rooms making those decisions, especially in an academia perspective, or even just in these high level health organizations anywhere. And I think that when it comes to solving our issues, we need people who know us and are from our communities being able to have insight and input on these issues, because there are a lot of things that are from that are from our community that they possibly would not understand unless they actually have someone from the community speaking on it. And I think that for me, more so, I want to be that one person that shows a lot of Black females from either the islands or Brooklyn, wherever, from all of our Black communities, that we can do whatever we want to. As long as we put our mind to it and we're dedicated towards it, it's something to make it happen. No matter how hard it may be, no matter how much people will be like, oh, wow, like that's a big goal. Okay, well, that's perfectly fine, because, you know, when I achieve my big goal, then you're going to be like, there's nothing else I could possibly say for you. And it's like, just because it is a big goal doesn't mean it's not accomplishable. Just because no one around you have never attained it doesn't mean that you can't do it. And so I just want to be that one factor that isn't there, because at least like there's a lot of diversity within my field overall. But I think that a lot of times the extra schooling, people are deterred from it, because I would say this entire PhD process has been a very emotional, as well as it has pushed me to the level of no return. So I'm at the point where I'm just like, you know, I've made it this far and I'm going to make sure I finish it, you know, and I want to be that person to be like, okay, if there is any other Black women or any woman from any minority group that wants information or having help from me, definitely do it. Because, and I'm so big on mentoring them, because I feel like once you get them from young and you tell them that it's possible. And I think for me too, it's being able to see people that look like me attain those accomplishments that gives me the extra push and the extra drive to go.
Yeah.
There really isn't that many Black women that I personally knew. I didn't get to know Black women who were actually pursuing their doctoral degrees until I got to this space.
Yeah.
And I think that it also helps create a bigger initiative for when we get to this space, that we can create a safe space for the issues that would be arising when you're a new person coming in and when you're not feeling alone. And I feel like it creates such of a wonderful effect for the future generations to see that anything is possible.
Yeah. Well, I'm someone who I don't really like school too much. So what are some of the things that you know, you could share with people just about, you know, it's such of a arduous track to become a PhD. What are some of the things that you do to keep your sanity during the process? You mentioned that, you know, and I, from my own educational experiences, know how emotionally draining higher degrees can be. And, you know, I wish that someone would have let me know some coping mechanisms. So what are some of the things that you can share to help people just keep on keeping on?
I think depending on where your values lie, mine tend to align with family and friends and ensuring that I'm creating moments for myself. I had to tell myself, even though that I'm working so hard, that it is okay for me to have bad days. It is okay for me to be completely frustrated. It's okay if I want to toss my computer and then walk away, you know?
Exactly.
You got to let it go. You got to go through the emotions. If you don't go through it, it's just going to stay with you and harbor in there. And I think that for me, I got that out by seeing my friends and my family, actually spending time with myself for me to be able to do it. Going on walks has helped me a lot. This get away from the desk and think through anything, any issue, any problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
Having wine time with my girls have been very those were very necessary. And I think too, just having, and it's okay, because like even like I use, like my advisor is so great that I could have just stressing, like just having someone to vent to my frustrations. That has been really good role that she completely understands. I know that sometimes when it comes to you being the first person in your family to do something, it might be hard for them to really understand what it is that you're going through. And if you could find someone that's like very close to you and they would actually take the time to listen to what you have to say, it is very helpful in that way. If that's just a little bit of support that's there. I do find exercising sometimes as well to be very relaxing. for me to be able to get some of that stress out. So if you got to do a kickboxing class, go do the kickboxing class, like anything possible for you to be able to relieve that. And then
That's up my alley. Yeah. I love that. And I love the line of, it's okay to have bad days, which I think is very important for people to know. Because I mean, a lot of times you have type A individuals, always, so used to succeeding and working hard, but just getting their way because of working hard, that it shocks the system when, something may not go your way. So I think that's very important for people to remember and understand, that you need to give yourself a little bit of grace. And hopefully, surrounding yourself with people who are loving on you and giving you that grace as well. So thank you for sharing that. I think, and just in overall, what are some of tidbits that you wish that people, and even maybe you before going into your field of public health, just kind of knew generally about your field? I remember one of our conversations was even just how in certain areas in New York City, it'd be difficult finding, the proper fresh produce and having to trek for that. And, I know you're not exactly as involved with politics, but I know that's a piece of it to try to help, get those grocery stores with those fresh fruits and produce there. Maybe try to advocate against having another, fast food restaurant, and ask for an affordable whole food store if you can. So I just want to know, like in general, what are some things that you wish people would, I guess, just focus on a little bit more in that field?
I think that with the way how things in the political environment have been now, I think that a lot of times public health has become public politics. And so a lot of the times, I do want people to know that public health is here to serve the community and people who need us the most. And I don't think that, and it's been getting a very negative connotation for politicians using that as a thing, but the people who are actually a part of the field and practicing each and every day, working hard, we're here for the community to help you guys. And we want to make sure that you know that we want to help. And I think that a lot of times that it's so difficult because you need the politicians for us to be able to get things passed. And we're those people in between where we are here for the community, but we still have to talk to them for us to be able to get these initiatives passed, because we want to be able to collaborate. Our goal in public health is to collaborate with different sectors, with different individuals, and ensuring that we could be able to create better, sustainable communities for everyone. And I think that some of the issues that I personally feel as if like I would like to see more so people pay attention to is definitely, I come from a very educational component of things. So for me, more so, I was really shocked, at least like when I was doing my research, that there's so many different maternal health studies that are being done in various countries about just the knowledge of pregnancy, the knowledge of complications overall within their country itself, and how they can improve that. There isn't much being done for that in America right now. Like I can't really find much articles that have been published in that space of knowing like what our overall literacy rate is for health literacy for Black women. There isn't really too much of actually our particular population. There's a lot of vulnerable populations where research is missing.
Yeah.
So I think that, and one thing that I do want people to know, that research isn't just being inside of a lab and being with those normal hard sciences, but the biochemistry is what we usually envision research to be. There is a lot of research that is involved with human beings and actually talking to people, actually using what people experiences have been for us to be able to use that and help guide us. There is a lot of community-based research being done within the public health field. And
you guys need us to answer our phones and respond.
Yes,
so sort of like how you were hitting the ground running in St. Louis, giving people gift cards.
Yes, like there are incentives
Exactly.
that are related to it, but we can't coerce people because we never do coercion.
Absolutely.
Or people shut us down. But I definitely want people to know that if you do get a phone call from someone who is trying to recruit you for a study, the least we can all do is just listen to what their study is about. And if it's not for you, then that's fine. But, at least trying to do a bigger initiative as to try to help each other out, because without the research, without the actual data to kind of help us show that it's a priority that needs to be done, the unfortunate truth of it is that if we don't have that much data, we can't really say that there really is. So it's like our hands are tied sometimes, but I want people to know that our goal in public health is to absolutely serve our communities. That is the most important component of it. And I feel like people should not be scared of asking questions ever, because asking questions will get you the answers. And then a lot of times within our field, if we don't have the answer right there and now, we'll get back to you and give you the answer and when we find that out. And so I think that it's okay. People need to start being comfortable with asking a lot of questions.
Yeah. And I think piggybacking on the research piece, I know a lot of that too has to do with people just being concerned about what their information is being used for. So I think it'll be helpful even if you could just share that, generally that information that you receive, even down to their phone number and stuff, that stuff doesn't get shared, right?
Absolutely not. So there isn't any like data sharing or any of that stuff. And I do know that there are so much issues regarding confidentiality.
Yeah.
And our goal overall, we have to make sure that we are, every single time we apply for a research study, we let people know how their information is going to be used. A lot of times we do tell them, where is it that we got the referral from? We work with a lot of different doctors within their doctor's office to see if any of their patients will be willing to be a part of the study. And so it depends on how the system is built up or worked up. Sometimes we would literally be doing like posting flyers on a website for someone to be able to see if they're interested. And so with your information itself, anything that you say or do is all confidential. There is no sharing of any information. Those files are secured and stored away. Like for us to get approval, we have to have an entire plan and show to them how is it we're going to keep your information safe at all times prior to it. We even have to tell them how we're going to get rid of it after the study is being done. We have to make sure that there's so many restrictions that are there, but to protect the patient or the participant itself, that you shouldn't be scared of it. And a lot of the times we're not going to ask you for any medically invasive or anything like that. The type of information that we're asking for, we have to tell you up front within your informed consent. And before you consent to be a part of any study, always make sure that you understand what's being asked of you. If you don't understand something, ask them to rephrase it for you. They can absolutely do that. And so as long as you're sure that is something for you, that is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it seems like the common theme today is ask questions.
Don't be scared.
Be involved. And a lot of times those questions are the things that's really going to protect you in the end. Because if something isn't right, asking proper questions will unveil that. So
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's okay to ask for second opinions too.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
Good. So with everything that you have going on, you're also an adjunct professor. Talk a little bit about that, especially being as young as you are and teaching, how is that classroom experience? What exactly are you teaching and how did you get into that?
So I teach undergraduates and graduate students at Russell Sage. I teach undergraduate students on epidemiology. It's an introduction to just everything related towards figuring out like how research is done, knowing the history of epidemiology itself, learning about the different study designs that are out there and how we do it, just learn a little bit about infectious disease history. And so that's pretty much how that course kind of goes. It's a required course for them to be able to graduate for the degree in public health. And at the graduate level, as my day job, I am a program research specialist. And so I help New York State evaluate a lot of like their opioid prevention work for a couple of different grants. And so what I do there is pretty much like trying to help individuals figure out what can we do better for the next time, to evaluate and see what else can we possibly work on. And so from that experiences there, I teach program evaluation and how to develop evaluation plans, how to pretty much what they are, why they're important, and what has evaluation evolved to in the current working world where things are very adaptable and they change at all times. And so that's kind of what I do at I'll be teaching at this fall at the graduate level. And nice. I kind of got involved with teaching overall because as a part of my program, I decided to go on the track of doing a little bit of teaching. I've always loved being a tutor, and it always helped me keeping fresh on my material for actually doing that type of work. And I do love the aspect that I get to have young minds be interactive with me. I love the fact that when my students don't understand something, that they could definitely ask me those questions and ask me questions as to why is it that we were doing that back then and when this could be happening and be done. And I do like when they have those, most of my classes are very discussion form based. So I like when someone challenges how I believe. And it's like, I love engaging in conversations with individuals who don't particularly see things the way how I do, because I personally feel like it helps me be stronger because I can understand that other perspective as well.
Yeah. And
it has been a very wonderful journey.
Yeah.
Students are amazing. They're all pretty much going off to do really good things. Some of them are, especially my undergrad class this year, some of them are going into the field of public health. Some of them are going into their master's program. And so it's really good to kind of be able to just have that chat with the youth, particularly like the future public workforce, essentially for me.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned, you having an opportunity to grow. Just what do you feel about all the experiences that you've been encountering that has led you to have the most growth opportunity? I think that'd be interesting to explore.
I think personally, growth-wise, I would say two aspects. So the teaching aspect has allowed me to grow in the fact of when I am making my materials to be prepared to do a little bit of research for the other side as well, to be able to provide that other, at least like play devil's advocate in some of the conversations that we're having, because I think sometimes if you're just thinking one way, then you're not thinking about how your actions are going to impact the person. And so I think that that's a very important aspect to play in like the world of academia, because when you get out here in real life, it's not only your perspective that you're going to run into. So I try to make sure that they're seeing other viewpoints as well. And then I also do invite other people in my classrooms who have real world experiences to be able to give them that real life feedback. Like, yes, what I'm teaching you is in class is this, but when it comes in real life, you got to be able to work around it.
Yeah.
I think the second aspect that has been the most development for me more so, I would say, is just going through my doctoral program. It made me learn more about myself and knowing how to better manage and have more confidence in my work. A lot of times I have learned throughout this process that I'm slightly a bit of a perfectionist, and it's okay for it not to be done correctly, because the point of me working with a team is for someone else, is for them to be able to collaborate together, having a team helps you in being able to do, because you can't do everything. You could know a bit about everything, but you're not specifically knowing of everything. And so I think that having other people's perspective is very important. And essentially, my committee has been really helpful in making sure that I think about these various aspects as I am writing these grants, as I am writing out this work, as I am. And one thing that I do love about public health is that after all this research that I do, how can what I found out actually be used in practice to us be able to work towards the goals? And I think that that's the component that having my team is going to be really helpful for, and I'll be going through that journey. Next.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. As we wrap things up, what's next for you? What does a successful career look like for you? Yeah.
I think what's next for me is after finishing my degree, I definitely want to be able to still be able to teach because I do love that component of the interaction with individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm pretty much very open as to where is it in my field I'm going to be lying. I am a person that if the right opportunity comes, I will definitely give it a shot. I love a challenge. And so if I whatever kind of works best for me, I definitely want to stay within my work of vulnerable populations, of sure that I am addressing issues that come from my community. I love doing research on my people particularly, because I feel like the more people like us that are there working on these issues, the more confident everyone would be in actually obtaining these various perspectives. But then I do want people to know that there are also people who don't look like us that want to make sure that we are doing really well too.
Yep. Yeah, well, I love that. I know that your mom and the rest of your family are very proud. I want to say I'm very proud of you. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. And I hope everyone enjoyed our conversation here with Nerissa. Again, thank you very much. And hope you guys didn't miss Tom too much today. I hope everyone takes care and have a great week.
Thank you all.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going. Better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up.
This is Harry Grove, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven.